Okay, continuing, proving ground number 1, unit 6. This reflection on the compositing we've done so far and then trying to get more out of it, right? The directions are this. You will use your compositing skills to believably place your fantasy creature onto your fantasy background. To do this, we take your clean-edged PNG file from assignment 2. So I open up my folder, I go to my assignment 2 folder, and I look for what I submitted to Canvas. Not my PSD, but my PNG. Go ahead and double-click it on your Mac, and you can see if it's cleanly cut out or not, right? This is what you want before you bring it into your landscape. You want no floating debris around it. You know, it shouldn't have dandruff. We can always composite dandruff in later if we want it. But as an asset, as a figurative asset, you don't want dandruff on it. It shouldn't have edges that don't make sense, like a black line around anything, a white thing popping out, a piece of fluorescent green grass coming from an edge. And sometimes you don't have the opportunity to check this until the very end. And then the other thing is you want it to be crisp and 100% opaque at the edge. You do not want it to be transparent or soft, which means that when you cut it out with a soft-edged eraser instead of a lasso with a feather, right? A feathering effect. Now, does it need to be perfect? Because it takes a long time to make these things perfect. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like this internal edge, I should have spent more time on that. I should have burned that down. I should have blended that better, right? That's okay. It's not a huge deal. But as long as you can get a clean cutout of it, then it's like a good sticker we can use. So that is one component we need. What I want you to do is actually this. I want you to hold down Option and drag your PNG once you're happy with it and make a duplicate of it onto the desktop. So when you hold down Option and you move files from one source to another, even when they're on the same device, because this is all on my computer, it will make a duplicate. Then I want you to go to your assignment 1 folder. And we are going to use your PSD. And you are going to hold down Option and drag your PSD to the desktop for assignment 1. Again, your landscape does not need to be perfect or finished, right? It doesn't even need to be cleanly cut out. This is an opportunity for you to do that. But your PNG does need to be cleanly cut out because this is not a PSD file. This is the merged online format. That's kind of one thing. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to make a new folder within your master folder, and you're going to call it Proving Ground number 1. It's different than an assignment. It's different than an exercise. I'm going to mark it as yellow because I'm working on it. And then I'm going to change the name of my assignment 1 copy. Because it's no longer an assignment, it is a proving ground to Proving Ground 1. This is so we don't lose our assignment 1 file or accidentally overwrite it. And then I'm going to move both of those into my Proving Ground folder. So your assignment 1 folder remains unchanged. Your assignment 2 folder remains unchanged. But we have taken assets from both of those assignments and moved them into this Proving Ground 1 folder. We do not need to find other references, at least not yet, for this project to do it successfully. Now we're going to open up our Proving Ground number 1. We open it up with Photoshop. We open up the PSD file. And we look at our layers and we make sense of the data we have. So we want to clean it up just in terms of organization. So all of these layers are doing something. They're kind of building the 3 layers of depth. And we need to have at least 5 of them, right? Okay, this layer is no longer necessary. So if I turn it off and on and it's not there, no longer necessary. So what I'm going to do is drag that layer to the trash. That saves space. Remember, this is my proving ground, not assignment 1. Also, to make sense of the data, I don't want to have any extra things open or layers I don't need. I can delete any. I want to understand what's there, and I want to see if there are improvements that can be made, right? So one thing I notice, it's just kind of a design feature, but you see how the river kind of flows very naturally, and then it stops right at the edge of the tree, and then there's just grass on the other side of the tree. That is something you would see in real life, but as a design feature, it's a bit problematic, right? Kind of draws your focus and you wonder, well, I want to see the edge of that water, or that just seems kind of artificial. And sure enough, it's because this asset covers up the rest of that water. So what can I do to improve it? Well, I can blend a little, right? Once I've now taken some time away from this project, I'm a little bit freer to see where I can make improvements to it and blend some edges. I don't want that boat, so I'm just going to get the riverbank right there and start blending. Whoops. Then I can go to a lower opacity, bring out these rocks, and then I let that grass kind of take form. Then I can look at the edge, and I can use my skills, right, that we have been learning. So I can do things like burning that edge a little bit. Oh, that's dodge. I want to darken it. And I might want to darken the river behind it a little bit. So it feels more like a shoreline. And then I need to soften that edge. So I'm going to feather it. But I'm going to feather it at 3 pixels. Use my lasso. Trim that tree. And make this a little less regular. Then as it goes to this bush, and then erase that out. Whoops, wrong layer. Softening these transitions. So now that bugs me a lot less, right? And I can see in the history, it was like that. Now it's like that. Little corrections. But when I burned it, it got kind of yellow, right? So I'm going to use not just dodge and burn, but I'm also going to use the sponge tool to lightly desaturate it and kind of control all of those colors. Good. Now, do I like this bush? Maybe I want to burn inside there. So just like you can use this to improve your creature, you can also use this to improve your landscape. In fact, I might even just do some internal compositing here. We know what that is now. Take this bush from this one layer, duplicate it, internally composite it, transform it, flip it, make it bigger. Whoops. Duplicated from the wrong layer. See, sorry, I want it from this layer, the one on top. So I'm going to grab this bush from this top layer with some overlap. I'm at a 3 pixel feather here. Duplicate it, Command J, internally composite. Then I'm going to transform it, flip it, make it bigger. so that it can soften this transition a little bit on the riverbank. Put it right there, maybe warp it down. And because I'm growing it, I'm also going to sharpen it. Use the sharpen tool. Get a little bit of that contrast in there. Not too much, it's a powerful tool. Now I'm going to use that 3-pixel feather, and I'm going to cut away from it with more specificity, like you would expect from this kind of bramble bush. But because it's internally composited on top of a setting that already matches it, it should blend pretty well. I'm more concerned with its overlap with the river. Right, so that is fixing a problem with an internal composite. These look a little strange. Trim that down, maybe. All right, and then this transition bugs me. So you're going to always see things and just fix the easy things as you can. Like that blend could be better. There's always things that can be improved. And this is your chance to kind of revisit some of them. With your compositing skills. It's where we're starting to learn to master it instead of just be introduced to it. And sometimes you have to fix it with internal compositing. So in your landscape, I don't do a lot of clone stamping because it can look really artificial. But I do a lot of internal compositing, like getting a little patch of grass to cover up a seam and run it behind. And then blend away from it. And that's just, one small aspect in a much larger composition. All right, so now that we understand our landscape, we can save it, Command S. This is now our proving ground, right? No longer assignment 1. And now I can bring in that PNG asset. I'm going to bring it in at the very top. And it should be big, right? Because another part of understanding your data, besides just understanding what your layers are doing, is understanding what your resolution is. So if you go to image size, you will see what your physical dimensions are in inches, width and height, and what your resolution is in terms of pixels per inch. And we want it, ideally it would be printable for your portfolio, right? It would be at least 8 by 10 inches by at least 300 pixels per inch. But that can change, so it's good to know what it starts with. Okay, so now my creature is on top. Because I also made my creature a printable resolution, its native resolution is plenty big. But that doesn't mean I need to keep my creature that big. But what I do need is for my creature to take up 25% or more of the overall Creaturescape. So how can I do that? Well, first of all, I can hit Command T while my creature PNG layer is still a smart object, which allows me to scale it up and down to match. And if I'm going for a kind of a dodo porcupine, like the biggest it would be in this setting is about like that. Right? Even in the foreground. Because that's a pretty big bird right there, like right on the riverbank. So before I worry about its coloring or making its lighting match or its atmosphere, first I have to figure out where I want to place it. So that's one option. Another option is I can be more creative with it. I can make it huge. But if I'm making it huge, maybe I don't